Welcome to Mountain Family, Inga Mountain Family and guests on this God-given day. First, I'd like to give thanks to our Lord and Savior and Pastor for allowing me to have this opportunity. Okay, from the outside looking in, marriage may appear like peaches and cream, but for many, it is World War III in their households. With the help of today's couples, I will be speaking with and will show us how to move from marriage out of the war into the peace zone. Joining with us around the table is Marshall and Leona Gray, as well as Mr. and Mrs. Cunningham. Today we'll be discussing how long have you guys been married? Mr. and Mrs. Gray, how long have you guys been married?
We've been married 48 years.
48 years?
Years.
We've been married 20 years.
20 years.
It'll be 20 years this coming September the 2nd.
Could you all explain your position in the church? What do you do in ministry?
Myself, I serve as a deacon, and I teach Sunday school, and be available wherever I'm needed.
And you missed one. We both of us serve as the facilitators for the marriage ministry. Right.
You're right.
I also serve as the wellness director here at Mount Inga.
I am the events coordinator for the marriage ministry, and I also help with other ministries throughout the church.
I've been a musician for 38 years. Started playing the drums here at Mount Inga Missionary Baptist Church, where my father was the pastor, and right now also a musician at my brother's church. I've been there for 10 years.
There's one question that someone wants to know is, how did you know he or she was the one? Who would like to go first?
I'll let Marshall go first because he tells this story all the time.
Well, how I knew was I had once me and Leona, we had been together since we were in high school, and I would always tell my friends that, hey, this is my wife. I already know that that this is the person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. Now, wasn't from a spiritual perspective because I hadn't got there yet, but still, God, He shows you things, even though you don't quite know that it's Him that's showing it to you.
It wasn't that clear for me. It took quite a while. We dated since we were sophomores, so it really just wasn't that clear. I think it was just a gradual thing. I think when it kind of became clear is when he decided he was going into the military, and I knew he would be leaving our little town, Steubenville, and I didn't want to be left behind, truthfully. So I said, okay, let's make this work.
For me, Serena, I dated for 3 years, and there was something about her that clicked. I was engaged a couple other times, and it didn't work out. And there was something about her that made me think very, very, very hard about my decision whether to stay with this young lady or not. So I went over to her house one day. Her mother invited me. It was during a holiday, and my brother knew her. My younger brother knew her, and he kind of like set our relationship up. And the holiday, I went over to her mother's house, And the first time I was able to eat dinner with her and her family, the food was so amazing that I was like, oh my God, she is the one. I said that was my sign that if her mother could cook, I know that she would be able to cook. And I said I always needed a wife who can cook. And once we got married, I proposed. I found out that she couldn't cook.
Oh my.
I said, wait a minute, that something ain't right here. Something is not right here. I said, okay, well, you're gonna have to learn how to cook because I don't know how to cook. So that was really my sign that I was like, okay, she was willing to do it, and because I was working and a lot, so I was like, I come home late, so you're gonna have to learn to cook, and so that's what she did, and we'll be married 20 years coming up.
When I met Timothy, I kind of didn't know if he was the one at first. Being in the church, I was just new in the church, getting to know people. And like he said, his brother Corey did kind of set it up or whatever. But from then, we started dating, going different places, and it just evolved from there. And like he said, it will be 20 years in September.
Awesome. Another question. How do you compromise without feeling like you gave in? So if there is a situation that has occurred in your relationship and you don't see it her way and you don't see it his way, but you give in to that individual, how do you compromise, feeling like you compromise without feeling like you just gave in? This person wants to know.
Well, I tell you, for me, now, there was a time that was hard to do.
Right.
That was really hard to do because that can be a struggle at times. You know, you feeling like, okay, well, if I give in, then that's a sign of weakness, or I'm allowing myself to be taken advantage of. However, as over time and trust, and you just say, well, then I just reached a point where, okay, even if I don't agree, even if I think I'm right, for the sake of our relationship, for the sake of our peace of mind, I can, I don't mind, compromising. But that didn't happen overnight. But it was a process, and now I'll compromise in a heartbeat. Now, whatever it takes to keep the peace, then that I'm all for it.
I know. It took a while to get to a place where it was easier to compromise. I'm really, tell you the truth, I'm not the best compromiser. I want my way, and that's just the way it is. So he is really soft, and he gives in. But it depends on the situation. It depends on how serious it is. Oftentimes I'll just back away and do it anyway. But Marshall's just very soft. He gives me my way. I'm often told I'm spoiled. So there's not a whole lot that we haven't really come together where it's created a battle in our relationship. We'll sit down and we'll talk about it. Over the years, you've grown to trust that person, so you don't feel that you're compromising or giving in or whatsoever. You're not giving in. You just trust and believe that person, that he will lead you in the right direction, and vice versa. I think you just trust. Because you grow together. You have to grow together. You have the same goals. You have the same purpose in life as a couple. So I don't think we don't give in. We just come to a decision, well, it's going to be this way or that way, or maybe let's just come to the middle. What's the middle point in this? And you don't go away. You make sure you don't go away from a situation where one of you is mad at the other because of it. So I think it's just a gradual growth thing and a trust factor for sure.
I want to ask you a question. And so do you go away for a couple of days, leave it at the table, go away for a couple of days and go back to it and discuss it again?
Oftentimes, it depends especially if it's a serious financial thing that we're looking at. I'll give you a perfectly good example. We were talking about this today. It's a compromise that I made a few years ago that I kind of wish that I would have not made that compromise just to keep the peace. We needed windows. He's the financial person. We needed windows at the house. He decided, against my wishes, just to do the front side of the house. So now the back side needs it. So now and I'm like, why didn't we just do the whole thing in the first place? And he was like, well, we didn't really have the funds. I said, well, we eventually paid for it. So it was one of those compromises that I made that I wished I hadn't made, because now we need all new windows. And it's like we wasted some financial money that we didn't have to waste. That's just one example. So it's stuff like that. You learn to give and take. Give and take.
Okay. And one word y'all both said, trust.
Yeah, it's a trust factor.
You have to trust your partner.
And that doesn't come overnight.
Right.
That takes years and years to get to a place where you truly believe and trust in that person. And you know that person's got your back.
All right. I'll say for us, with the compromise in the early stages of our marriage, it was very hard for me because, for one, I come from a single parent household. So coming from a single parent household, you're raised to be independent. I know I was, for my mom, to be independent and not depend on anyone. So when we first got married, it was a lot of that where I didn't depend on Timmy too much. I would do my own thing because that's how I was raised, until a couple people in the church would talk to me like, you got to step back and you got to let him do what God allows him to do or whatever. And you guys come together as one and not be so independent. So it did take time over the years because, like the Grace said, it's a trust issue. It's a trust factor, that they're not going to lead you in the wrong direction or whatever. So we've learned that over the years through trials and tribulations.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on what Deacon Gray has said for quote male figures. It is kind of hard to compromise because somewhat men have a little ego, so to speak. Don't want to be told what to do or what's up to a degree, but like Sarita said, both said, we had to come to terms that, like she said, she came from a single parent home, and I have both my parents. So in a marriage, you have to really realize what your spouse's strong points are. She has a lot of strong points, and I have a lot of strong points. Vice versa, we both have to see it on both sides. So early, I recognized a lot of her strong points. Like she said, she'd be independent. So I recognized that she did like to do things on her own. That quote I didn't have to guide her, so to speak, as the head or the male figure of the household. But another example, when we got our apartment, when we got our apartment, I said I wanted an apartment that was had a downstairs and an upstairs. I didn't want to live at the bottom of the first floor. I didn't want to live on the top floor because bottom floor you hear people walking all over you. So we agreed to find an apartment, and luckily we was able to do that. Same thing with our home, our house. That my requirements was that I had to have a basement or an attic and a 2-car garage because I'm not going to pay for a house where I can't put my car in the garage. So we compromised. She compromised with that, and she said, well, where she came from, she didn't park her car in the garage. She kept it outside. So I don't need no garage. I can scrape snow off it. But today she appreciated that, having that garage. Right. I know she was used to that because where she come from, she didn't have that. And I had that. So that's what I was used to and she was used to. So the compromise is that we come from totally different backgrounds, so to speak. You know what I mean? And thank God that we was able. It was a struggle, like she said, through the years of doing things her way, or I'm used to doing things my way. That we had to come to terms that, okay, this is for the best thing for our marriage. And then with us, we had a child right away after we got married. So we had a young daughter that was entered into our equation. So we really didn't have that much time to really have get to know each other within the marriage. You know, like I said, we dated for 3 years, but after you get married, it was different. So we you have to understand each other's strong points, and then just respect their strong points, and that's how I was able to do it.
I know, as you said, you recognized her strong points at the beginning of the relationship. How were you able to pull that out and recognize that at a young age?
Well, again, like I said, when I met her, when we was dating, the way she talked and carried herself, I knew she had strong. But then when I met her mother, that gave me assurance too to how she was. So, the apple don't fall far from the tree. So I knew that she really had a lot of strong points that I needed for me as an individual to help me. Like I said, we need a helpmate, and she was definitely my helpmate. When I knew that right away, I said, "Oh, she's the one."
So therefore, you knew what you needed.
Absolutely,
you knew.
Absolutely, and it's not. And I tell young people, young couples, who think about dating, it's not always about looks, figured all that. Because it's no lie, I dated girls way prettier than her, but that wasn't a factor for me. She's a beautiful woman. Everybody can't have a Kim Kardashian or a Halle Berry, for a wife. It's what's on the inside that attracted me to her even more. And so, I just knew that. God just gave me that, and I was thank God for it for every day that He put a helpmate that can help me, because I knew what I needed in a wife.
I want to ask you a question, because you said something that really I notice a lot of women go through coming from a single household. And coming from a single household, I know that you have to learn how to be independent and stay on your own and be able to handle everything in the household. How was it? Was it hard for you to release and hand him the baton over, and say, "I trust you, and I'm going to let you control this ship"?
Oh, yes. It was very hard in the beginning with us because the communication, the trust wasn't always there for either parties or whatever. And we did go to counseling in the very beginning because we were lacking things with our marriage or whatever. Where was the trust and the communication, because of me being so independent, and him also too, because he was independent to a degree because he was single or whatever prior to, us dating, and even once we got married. So, yeah.
And something else you said, you asked for help.
Mm-hmm.
You went to other women in the church. Now, let me ask you this question. Did you just go to any woman, or were you led, or did you pray about it, or did you watch the women in the church and see how they move and operate before you can go and share that information and trust that woman with your information?
It was primarily my mother-in-law. I would go talk to her. My sister-in-law, I would talk to her. But one particular woman did come to me that I didn't even go to, just came to me and pulled me to the side one Sunday and talked to me or whatever. So she said she had an indication that something wasn't right. So.
That's good. That's good. Praise God. That's good. Next question. Do you believe in traditional roles? And if you do, what traditional role do you have that you utilize in your marriage?
No, I don't believe in traditional roles. I do believe that there are some things that a man can do better, and some things a woman can do better. And I say that because Marshall was military, so he was gone. He went overseas. He traveled. So I was left to do mom and pop roles. So I don't believe that there's one particular, because even though I don't want to do it because he does it, I would cut the grass if I had to, because you have to do those kinds of things. I mean, I used to work on cars. My father taught me how to put together bicycles and everything. So I was one of them tomboyish kind of girls that could put together everything in the house. And with him being gone and me having a child, there was no traditional thing. You had to do it all. You had to do it all. So I don't know how he feels about it. I'm not cutting no grass. Let me just make that real clear right now. That's just not what's going to happen. But if I had to, I would. It's not. I'm not.
She said she had to.
Well, he's got a riding mower, so I'll just ride.
Marshall?
Yeah, well, we've been married 48 years. I don't even know whether you know how to start a lawnmower, but anyway, but I don't believe in traditional roles either.
Okay.
I don't believe that this is just, that this is what this is for the man and this is for the woman. I think that you kind of like by default, you kind of fall into those, but not from an intentional, standpoint, because I don't have a problem with, with doing anything around it. And I don't limit myself. I don't say that, well, I can't cook. I'm not going to do dishes, or I'm not going to clean the house. I'm not going to wash clothes, because that's what the wife is supposed to do. When it needs to be done, we just do it. And
It piles up sometimes too.
oh yeah, well yeah, it does. It does. But I think, that's just the way things work out. But I don't have a problem with limiting myself, and I don't. I just want to get in, whatever needs to be done, that's going to, benefit the household, and Leona, she does the same thing. If she sees that I'm not going to do it, she'll do it.
I'm going to ask another question to both of the men. It's a question that someone asked. If you lose your jobs and the women are still working in your household, how do you feel as a man when the woman has to go ahead and provide for the household? And how long do you get yourself out that situation? How long does it take for you to get yourself out that situation? What type of job would you take to provide for your household, to help out?
Oh, I can answer that real quick. For me, I have no problem with my wife making more money than me or working. I have no problem at all. And quite as kept, right now, I'm unemployed, and thank God, she's still working at home. But no, for me, I have no problem. But because I know that I know how to hustle and make money, legit. I'm not a lazy person. I will work. I tell people all the time, I have 3 jobs. I work 7 days a week before this coronavirus. So I work Sunday to Sunday. So no, I have no problem with my spouse making more money or taking care of me.
And
Marsha?
As long as she's okay, as long as she's okay with it.
well, I kind of, I echo what Tim is saying, and I guess that for me, I go back to a point where I was in a transition phase, having retired from the military, and was at a point where I was trying to decide, okay, what am I going to do now? What's out there for me? Wow, Leona was gainfully employed. She was pretty much carrying the load, the financial load, and then even when I did get employed, get back into the job market, she was making way more money than I was making, for quite some time. But it never, it didn't bother me. I don't know if it bothered her or not, but I did not give it a second thought. I mean, because by the same token, like, I know that I'm not a lazy person, and that do the best I can. I'm going to, work as hard as I can to improve my situation. So in the meantime, for whatever length of time that takes, or even if it never happens, it wouldn't have been from lack of trying. And I felt that, so we never had a problem. We never had problems with who's bringing home the bacon, who's making this and who's making that.
I think it's more so the women that have the problem.
That was my next question. Ladies, did you have a problem or do you have a problem with your husband not working? And how long would you accept this? Because a lot of people are sharing that women, okay, yes, he is a working man, but unfortunately lost his job, but now he is just staying off of work too long. Too long now. And he's getting comfortable. Did you ever feel like he was just getting too comfortable and was lazy and just wouldn't pitch in at all?
No, I've known more. I knew him too well, and I knew he was. I thought it was bothering him more than it was bothering me. Now, a long period of time that would not be acceptable. I would not be. You just got to get up and do something. If you have to go to McDonald's, I just believe my father always taught me, if you have to work in McDonald's, be the best McDonald's worker you can possibly be. That was just a phrase that was in my house. No matter what you do, be proud of what it is that you do. But I always knew that he was going to rise back up. And now, don't get me wrong. I did throw it in his face. I'm making more money than you. Something. I used to. If I got mad at him, I would say that. But nothing. But I knew he would get a job. I knew he would get back up on his feet and didn't throw it in his face because I'm sure I didn't want to make him depressed or feel less worthy. But no, just couldn't do it for too long.
So did you ever go to anyone and talk to someone else about it, or you just knew in your heart?
Oh, I just knew in my heart.
Okay.
It really was no big deal. There was no issue. It was a transitional period, and we all go through those. So, because I've seen this guy be in the military and let me go to school, and he'd get a second job. He used to work as a waiter in like the NCO club. I remember times when he'd come home with lobsters that bit his hands and stuff like that. So I knew what kind of person he was. I knew if he's able, he's going to make it work. So he did for me, and I do for him.
That's awesome.
I'd say for us right now, like we're going through it now, because Herman is not able to work because of this virus. So I know if it was more of lifting things where he could get out there, he would go out there and find something else until his two regular jobs became available. Because he's a barber and he's a supervisor for Goodwill. But so right now, like you said, the roles have changed where I'm the one that's providing for the household right now. There was a time where I wasn't working several years ago. I lost my job and I wasn't working for 4 years, and I talked about going to school, and he said, I think that would be a good idea. So during that time, he was managing the whole household, everything, and there was no income on my part. But I didn't just sit on my butt and just go to school. I also was doing other things to make money to help him in the end too, because I didn't want that to become another problem for us, or we get into something bigger or like that.
Right. That's good. That's good. Our next question is, how do you take time out for one another, and how did you do it when you had little children?
Well, when we were raising our kids, a lot of our relief came by way of our mom. We would
You said relief. I like that.
well, I mean,
I know what you said.
but yeah, we would send our kids to to her mom's house, for the summer, pretty much, and then every summer, and wasn't if we felt that had we felt that we were imposing upon her mom, she looked forward to it and she enjoyed it, and so that gave us time together. And now that our kids are grown and it's just the two of us, we look for other avenues to spend together. Primarily, a lot of that has to do is through travel. We vacations a couple times a year, to different places. And this year has been a little bit different with the way things are. Some things that we had planned had been, we had to take them off. They had to be canceled. And so, but that's pretty much how we have how we pretty much are able to spend the time, spend some quality time together.
And if I could add, when I worked, I traveled a lot. So oftentimes he would go on those trips with me. So we were able to not spend all the exorbitant amount of money because it was the business that I worked in covered a lot of costs. So, I mean, I traveled all over the country, and he would just come along with me, and we'd have those weeks or weekends. And like you said about my mom, she was over a rec center, so it was easy for her to take my girls. They loved going, she loved going, because we lived way, and it helped her get to know who my children, my two daughters were. We lived way in the state of Washington. That's when he was in the military. We were stationed out there. So we'd travel across the country and drop Kai off, Tosh off for the whole summer. We had the whole summer to ourselves. So it was nice. And every summer, my mom took them every summer when they got to a place where they could be about able to pretty much be in like 5 or 6 years old is when they started taking them. Until they got teenagers and couldn't get them to go nowhere. But yeah.
So did y'all ever take time out when you did have the children, go on dates, or just become creative of things to do together to build a relationship to make it stronger?
We just got to dinner a lot.
Okay.
You'd get a babysitter. Yeah, we had friends that would come over and babysit, but we just got to dinner a lot. We used to be, he was a Mason and I was an Eastern Star, so we used to do activities with them. We just had friends we had friends that had teenagers that would come and visit. So we were always on the go. We didn't stay home. We went to movies, we went to dinner, we went to parties. We were a very, very, and still are, a very, very, very active couple together. No.
This time, like I said, this time that we're in now is the most inactive. So we have to find ways now to appreciate one another in our current situation.
I can't stand to hear him blink. Right. Hear him blink.
Right. Okay. So since you have children, how do you get away and just have that one-on-one time? You have to close the bedroom door. What do you have to do to spend that time together?
When our daughters, our kids are 7 years apart, so when we had our daughters, my mom was a big help. Because during the week, his mom, they kept Imani for us.
Okay.
So we was fortunate our first 2 years, they kept us on the weekends if we wanted to do anything. My mom would be first, or my aunt. So that's how we was able to do things or go out to things and stuff. When Isaiah came along, my mom again, and then my aunt, really it was my aunt more so was my son. So we would come time, and then when the marriage ministry came along, let's maybe use our outings as going out on date night. Or he has gigs and stuff, if they're not private, I'll go to some of those, so that's just really fun.
That's good. Would you say it's needed in a marriage to get away and have that me time out of the house or the children away?
Yes, definitely.
Why would you say that? Why do you say that? Just why?
Well, for our situation, like I said, our marriage happened so quickly and rapidly. Like I said, we dated for 3 years. Then we had a child right away. So during the process, our daughter was growing up. We was first newlyweds, then we became parents right away. And so it was just like, okay, I gotta work, I gotta provide. I got a daughter now, I got a wife, I got family, so I have to work. And in the midst of that, sometimes you do miss the one-on-one time. Like you said, we did do dates. Thank God for her mother, my parents at the time when they was living, and her aunt. So we was able to go to the movies and do things like that. I didn't really go to parties too much back then at that time because I just didn't go. I didn't go to a lot of parties. My thing was just movies. And by being a barber back then full time, I would work a lot of long hours. Get home at 9, 10 o'clock, so we would always have to go to the last show almost. And so in the midst of the movie, I might end up falling asleep. I'd be so tired standing on my feet all day, and she would be mad at me. but we ain't going to the movies no more. So that kind of like stuff. So we didn't at that time, a period of time, we didn't really have anything to do as far as because that was our date. It was going to the movies. So that kind of like stopped for a while until I got into DJing, like you said, going to gigs and stuff. So it was difficult at the time because I did want that one-on-one time, but it was just learning how to be a husband. She learned how to be a wife, then a mother. It was just happening so fast, and we just lost focus during that time amongst one another because we wanted to raise our daughter. So, but now it's fine. Like you said, we joined the married ministry, so we have a lot of outings and different events that I do that we're able to get that time in. And our kids are getting older.
And I think it's about your relationship as it evolves. You have to keep it involved. You have to keep it spiced up. You can't let it get stagnant. And when you do, you bring in all kinds of different problems, all kinds of different situations, and you grow apart if you don't put each other first, if you don't support each other and do things, not necessarily things that I like to do, but things that he likes to do that I don't necessarily like to do. You have to compromise. That's a good place to compromise too as well. But I think it's about as you grow and as you evolve, you gotta keep things moving and keep things going so that you don't end up in not even knowing who that person is that you're sleeping with every day. You don't know who they are. So you got to keep talking and join each other and finding things to do.
Yeah, I agree with that because I'm a sports figure. I used to play basketball, and I stopped playing basketball. I took up bowling, so I used to bowl in 5 leagues a week. So that was my thing, and she was like, "You gotta go bowling again." Yeah, this. So I was putting that above our time a lot. So she got smart, and I asked her, "Well, what's going to bowling alley?" She would never come because during that time, bowling alleys had allowed smoking. So she was, she didn't like the smoking. Plus, both my parents smoked at that time too. So that stopped, and her mom too. So it kind of bothered her. So I understood. But she did attend in the church. She bowled in the church league. So we had that in common. And now that my son is playing basketball, she entered the sport because she wasn't an athlete. She didn't even get in sport. So she did compromise, like I said, to try to do some things that I enjoyed doing. And then I had to stop and compromise and say, I can't do this no more. Bowl, I need to spend more time with her. So I don't bowl right now. I don't bowl or play basketball anymore.
So I hear you compromise. So did you complain when you would go to the games? Like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be here. Or did you? Yes, to the bowling alley. Did you complain when you were going, or did you just sit there and?
When he would do the leagues during the week, because the leagues he did, they would be late at night, so I never went because he wouldn't get home till like 10, 11 o'clock at night. I'm more of a structured person, so I would be in bed. By the time he get home, I was in bed. So I wouldn't go. But when I joined the church league, it became fun or whatever. And then the smoking had stopped and all that. So I enjoyed it then. And like you said, I wasn't really into sports, but I would go to the events. But now that our son, I'm ready for a basketball game. I mean, it's tiresome, but yes, we enjoy the time and we're there for our kids when they're doing stuff. So, yeah.
Okay. The next question. How do you get your spouse to open up when they have shut down on you? Because I know sometimes as women, we can say things to kill our man's spirit where they would shut down on us and they will not open up anymore to us. How do you get that man or that woman to open back up to you?
Well, that's a good question. That's a really good question. But I think for me, Leona and I in our relationship, it would be hard. It's harder for her than it is for me because
say what?
I'm just from a standpoint of you getting me to open up. That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. As opposed to her, because I now she we have our disagreements and after she is said, well, I'm done. I'm done. That's her famous. Those are her famous lines. then I can, give her a couple minutes, or give her or an hour or so, or even the next day or whatever, and then I can go back, and we can start opening up a dialogue, and even if she is not really feeling it, we can still dialogue. Whereas now for me, I'm a little bit different, but she would, because her personality is different than mine. She's more of an extrovert. She's an extrovert. I'm an introvert. So she can come out of it quicker than I can.
Yeah, that is true. I get mine out. It's got to come out. And like you said, when I'm done with it, I'm done. And he's just sitting there looking at me like I'm nuts. And so, but when I try to get something out of him, I'll follow him all through the house. I will go up the steps. I will follow him all through the house until I'm satisfied and we get this conversation finished.
Baseball bat with each.
And Marshall's like, would you let me breathe? No, we got to finish this. I will. I am notorious for following him all over the house to hear what I need to hear and get him to open up and tell me what you're feeling. But don't hold it in because it's festers. So many, many years ago, one true thing that we said to one another and very serious about it, we've done this for, I can't even remember how long. We never go to bed angry. We always make sure we resolve what it is and not be angry. So it's not that, on the scheme of things, it's really not that important. It just isn't. But early on, I'd be up them steps, right behind him.
Yeah. And there was always the last word thing.
Oh yeah, I got to get the last word.
You had to have the last word. Yeah.
Well, for us, I can say it's very hard to get things out of Sarita when she's mad. I know that she needs her space and her time, and she does that. And for her, it could be a day or 2 days or 3 days or a week before it come out. It won't come out that particular incident or whatever happened that took place in the man. It'll come out in another way, maybe through the children, or even the men, and I get the blunt of it, But it all started with whatever happened with her, whether it's on her job, whatever else, whoever made it mad. So it's never. I ain't gonna say never. Sometimes she has to open up. She'll tell me some things. She got a little bit better, but she's very good in holding stuff in. And I try to tell her it's not good to hold it, but I don't. I said it one time and I don't say it no more because I know she need her space, whatever. And then eventually she'll get over it, and then everything go out to back to normal. But that particular incident is sometimes never come out. Like when you said she going to go follow her, I need to know. I just let it go, let it boil over another day, and then sometimes she'll hold it. It's not good, but that's her way of dealing with it. And like I said before, sometimes it'll come out in another fashion, and I know it had anything to do with me.
So how do you accept it when she does shut down? When she shut down, is she more social with you, or is she more distant with you?
No, she's definitely more distant, and I give her space because I know something upset her so bad, so I don't push it because it'll come out like I'm about. So I don't push the issue. I just let it. I said when she's ready to talk about it, she will. If she doesn't, it's okay with me.
That's good. That's good.
That's how.
He's right. I feel I've grown over the years. The last few years, I'm gonna say I'm getting better about that. About trying to discuss it more with him. But I do shut down easy when it comes to certain situations or whatever, which I know isn't good, but it's just something that I'm really working on and praying about, that it can get better with the communication sometimes when it's certain things that we may disagree upon or whatever.
And that's and the piggyback, this is what the marriage ministry helps us in so many ways by doing that. So she has come back. It's a work in progress. I know that we all have room to grow, and we all have to we all grow at different speed, different times, so I'm sympathetic to that. So I'm very patient. I'm very patient, man. So I understand and recognize certain things, not all things. But it's about knowing your spouse, and that's the main thing about us as human beings, male or female. We have to understand. Men have to understand women, and women have to understand men, and what goes on. That's our genetic makeup.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. How was it at the beginning of the relationship? Was there a lot of bickering, getting to know one another? When you first marry a person, you really don't know that individual until you start living with that individual. So was it hard to get overcome certain situation and the uncomfortableness and those individuals' habits that wasn't your habits, such as someone can be OCD and leave a sock on the floor, and that person walks over that sock. It doesn't bother them whatsoever, but your mate, it drives them crazy. Let's keep it real.
That part was very difficult for us. 'Cause like you said, she's a planner, structure. I'm not a sloppy person. She say I'm a hoarder or whatever, but I just like my gadgets and stuff and all that stuff. But I would say it's very difficult, mainly for her, not so for me, because I accept everything that she does, and I understand her more than she think I understand, and I know why she's that way. So I've grown to know her more than ever, because I watch her. It's a maturity level. Like you say, you've been in this marriage thing for a long time, so you get to know your spouse even more. It's a work in progress. So she's not that way with me, but I am with her. And I think that's just how I was raised, just to be very patient and understanding and try to look at all aspects and not just nitpick and take that, well, I'm not that type of person, like what Miss Gray said earlier about her husband. Well, the dishes didn't get washed. They'll pile up or stay for long. He doesn't do as fast as she wanted it to. Well, that's my wife too. She was like that. But the point of the matter is, there's no timetable of when the dishes get washed. Long as they get washed, for the next day you have clean plates. But for planners, structural people, women mainly, or some men are like that too. Everything has to be on a timely matter. When you're at your home, it's just you and your home. You're at your home. It shouldn't be on that time, in my opinion. But it was very difficult for her because it still is on certain things. So I'm more patient. That's where I think we all as human beings need to have more patience with one another.
Next question. If a member of the opposite sex needs to get in contact with your mate, do you feel they need to go through you first? Example, if I need to get in contact with Marshall, do I need to contact Leona to ask, can I talk to Marshall?
I've never been that way. No, that sounds like an insecurity. No. Now, after that conversation, I might say, what was that about? I might ask him about it, but no, you don't. I respect him. I respect his privacy, and I respect the fact that he loves me. He's not going to disrespect me in any way whatsoever. So no, I don't ever think I would have been that way. Now years ago, there was one chick that used to drive by our house all the time. It was like, that used to bother me. But no.
I love you.
But no, I've never.
So even at the beginning of the relationship, you didn't feel that way?
No, and I think what happened is because he went right into the military, so he was gone, and it was the times that when we did get back together, we were happy to see each other, so they just didn't have time for all that other mess, except for this one girl that used to drive around our house all the time. I'll never forget, and I see her every now and again too. It was like, look what you missed out on. Nothing. But anyway. But no, I've always trusted him. No.
For me, because of the type of position Timmy's in, like with the music and all that, I'll give his number out. If people ask, like, can I get Tim's number? I don't have a problem with giving his number because I know it's dealing with his business or whatever. And then a lot of times,
money coming in.
yeah. And then a lot of times while he's talking to him or when he gets done, like Miss Gray said, he may say, well, they wanted to do this, they want to do that. What do you think or whatever?
So being in ministry, men and women, women, how do you feel when you have a lot of women approaching your husband? Does that bother you? Being in the ministry, a lot of times a lot of women will approach men and ask them questions, and you're not around, but you might see it from a distance. Does that bother you to see a woman approaching your husband?
No, for me, and I've seen it in numerous occasions, it doesn't bother me whatsoever. I'm curious. I'll ask what we're about, but it doesn't bother me. You want to step up that way, go right on ahead.
For us, a lot of people, because Timmy's an approachable type, so I've learned that over the years. Like, a lot of people know him because of who he is, the family that he comes from. So I've had to learn to adapt to it or whatever. And I know, most of the women, they're not doing it in a condescending way or whatever. They want to catch up or may want to talk to him or whatever. So I would say no.
Was it hard at first?
Yeah, because we had some issues in the beginning. So yeah, it was.
How did you handle that?
We had to go to counseling.
Okay. Okay, that's good. Okay, here's another question. How do you rekindle a marriage? Somebody wants to know. How do you rekindle a marriage if it's been broken?
Well, you have to go back to where you started. In my opinion, what attracted you to this person that you're now married to? And over the years, things happen, like you said, children and jobs and careers get in a way where it takes away from you really focusing on your spouse. So that's why it's important, like we said earlier, to keep the dating or the love attraction is still going. You can get comfortable. Prime example, and I'm guilty of it, I tell it on myself, when we was dating, I used to open the door for my wife. I closed it. Now, 20 years of marriage, I don't do it no more. I have to admit, you got comfortable. It's not that I don't love her any less. It's just I found out that during the dating time, she appreciated then. But remember, she said that she was very independent. She didn't need that to make her feel, in my opinion, unless she never told me that, but she never felt like she really needed that to make her feel loved. That's just, so some women need that, so I always tease her all the time that sometimes that you look nice, you look proud. I say little comments to make her feel that even though we're in this marriage for a long time and I stopped doing some of the things I used to do, it's not that I don't love you any less. And we need to go back. Go back there, but we never had that conversation about that. We never really sat down and had a serious conversation. And I really appreciate this dialogue because the communication on that level has never came across. We just go. Well,
that's your question, then. Since it has never came across, do you feel that way? Where he has lacked off in things that he used to do?
Not really too much, I wouldn't say. Because like I said, the last few years we're able to do more dating and do more things where it was stagnant there for a minute because our focus was our oldest child. So now that she's done, our focus isn't really, I'm not going to say not on the kids, but now we can do a little bit more because we just have the one child. So I would say not really.
Okay. That's good.
Well, I would say, first of all, you have to want it. You have to want to just hold on to your relationship and rekindle it. And because of the place in which we're at now, we're praying people. And oftentimes you have to go and pray. You have to pray about it and ask God for guidance and direction because it can be bigger than you. You can't necessarily handle it yourself. And then if you can't figure it out, like they did, go into counseling. But you gotta want it. You gotta want to stay in the fight. You gotta really want the relationship, and go back, like perhaps maybe to dating. Just do small things, little things. Just have a sit down and have a conversation. Just pay attention to one another. You gotta pay attention to one another. You gotta get in depth into what that person is feeling, and hopefully you can have. And it's all about communication. If you don't keep those lines of communication open, you're probably not going to. And some marriages do fail. You know, there's a huge divorce rate. Some marriages are not, but I also think they haven't put God first. And I truly believe that if you put God first, all these other things will fall into place.
I agree with what Leona is saying, and then it's just a matter of taking the time and not taking each other for granted, because over the years, you know, that's a big thing that can occur, whether you realize it, whether it's intentional or unintentional. You just take your mate for granted, and that's what you have to kind of try to stay at some point. Just kind of try to stay aware of that, and try not to let that happen for too long a period of time.
Yes, that's good. Our last and final question and close remarks. What advice would you give to the couples who are dating or who are newlyweds on how to choose your mate and how to keep the marriage kindled?
First, pray for, ask God for guidance. Be honest, what you're looking for in a mate. Now, with that being said, he may not send you what you really asked for. He may be sending you somebody who's totally different than what you're asking for. So, and you got to be willing to listen to God and accept that, because he will do that. Because you might want this type of, you might want a lady or man would make $100,000 a year on a job, but you may not get that. So you have to accept whatever God sends you and be able to adapt and not take advantage of the individual because he or she lacks what you want. What you're looking for. So don't downplay him, because God's put you and sent you that person for a reason. You have to recognize that.
And those are all good points. And I would say that look at the total person. Don't get hung up in one area. How good she looks, how much money she makes, how good he looks, how much money he makes, or how anything in particular. But look. Ask God to help you look at that whole person, because if you just focusing in on, if it's just one thing that's got your eye, that's going to fade. That's going to fade, and then you're going to be left with what's after what you thought you saw is gone.
And I would highly recommend any couple that is looking to get engaged, married, go into some form of counseling. And if you're a Christian, a spiritual counseling, one of the things we have found in doing some of these counseling sessions is some of the questions that we ask, the couples are kind of shocked. They don't even know that about themselves. I didn't know you felt that way. I didn't know you this. I didn't know you. We hear a lot of things that you sit back and think, okay, probably should have talked about that. And you can clearly tell right away if that marriage is going to be successful, because those are some of the things that they have not sat down and talked about, and they have not put God first. I like to call it like a couple's bubble. You just enclose yourself and only surround the two of you. Don't let other people interfere in your relationship, whether you're dating, whether you're engaged. Have that third strand be God. Be God. You've got to have that. You can't allow in-laws. You can't allow siblings. You can't allow other people in your relationship, because then you've you've given away so much. And it really disrupts and destroys relationships. And we've seen so much of that. These couples come in and they really haven't sat down and talked about the serious stuff. I think a lot of it is kind of superficial. It's like Marshall was saying, it's in lust. They see that, or financially, or they have fun, and they're still on the dating. This is a long-term process, and you got to ask the hard, serious questions to really find out what that person internally is really about, and what that person does. That person worship God? Does that person are you equally yoked? You got to figure those things out before you go delve into a marriage. And I think the only way to do that is to find somebody that you can trust, find a counselor that you can trust, a pastor that you can trust, or somebody you can trust to have some conversation with, because nobody's going into a relationship and there aren't some issues on the table. That's not reality. There are going to be some things that you're going to disagree with. So that would be my advice.
So last question I'm going to ask.
One of you asked, Minister McCall asked whether you know how to be submissive. And then Penelope Brown, she asked, so will you settle? Since you were saying that, you might not always do what God wants, you just settle in the relationship. So,
I think that question is still compromise.
Mm-hmm.
Do you compromise? How do you compromise?
What do you mean by submissive?
I was waiting for you to say something about that. I was waiting for you.
preacher, ask them, do they know how to be submissive? These days, they feel like women we're too strong. So, are you ladies, do you know how to be submissive to your husband?
I know how to work as a team.
I think what happens is we read Ephesians.
Yeah,
and we hear that word submission.
Yeah,
and we
it's
think
not.
we're supposed to.
I'm not bowing down to anybody.
Bowing down, and then going back to those traditional roles.
Yeah, no, I won't bow down. I don't believe in bowing down. I wouldn't expect him to bow down to me. I think we are equals.
The other thing is society has taken that scripture out of Ephesians and just totally botched it all up, and it's still not right. We still don't get it right, and what it does is the first thing that particularly women, when they hear that, your antennas go up, and that should never happen with the Word of God, because the Word of God is not designed for that. The Word of God is designed to teach us, to provide us with the tools that we need to be successful as servants of God. So I think that first of all, we've got to come to an understanding of how we are interpreting certain phrases, particularly out of the Word of God, and making sure that we are rightly interpreting it, rightly, getting, the information is coming to us correctly and not from a societal standpoint.
And I do believe that men are head of the household. That scripture tells us that. And so I'm not going to go against something that I know that is godly sent. If I know this man is following God, if I'm following him through the letter, I'm going to follow him too. That doesn't mean that I'm going to submit and because some people think when we have those sessions, I'm not submitting to any man. I'm not bowing down. Well, that's not what that means. And I think it goes both ways. It's the man has to also.
To answer to the second question that he asked, did I settle or the men settle? I don't believe you have to settle. I believe it, like Ms. Gray said, you have to pray to God of what you need or what you actually need from a spouse, and that's what I did with Sarita. I pray to God to give me what I need, not what I wanted, because if you pray for what you want, 9 times out of 10 you may not like what you want. You think when you get it, okay? So I knew that I needed a strong person and somebody who was going to help me build me up, and vice versa. So it's not a settling thing. It's pray for what you need and not what you want.
Okay, so therefore, this question, you don't become one once you say I do you? Or do you grow into becoming one?
You grow into it. Yeah, it's a growth process.
It's a work in progress. Because even if you date for like you did 3 years, I know couples who dated for 20 years and never got married. You know, I'm like, and they live together, and so they wasn't equally yoked. After you get married, it's a work in progress because you still have to know that person after marriage. Things occur and happen. Like I said, we were dating when we had no kids, and when we got married, we had a child. So I didn't know what type of mother she was going to be. You know, so I had some ideas, but I didn't know what type of mother she was going to be. So it's a work in progress. You don't know.
And we know some couples that we counseled that have literally lived together, and when they got married, the marriage fell apart. So you do not become one immediately. It's a work. You got to work at it, and you got to pray about it. You've got to be not necessarily going to always be spiritually the same, because one person may be a little more different, definitely. But you got to work towards the same goal and the same purpose. And
piggyback on what we would say to single couples who's looking at, you have to reevaluate yourself. You got to look at yourself. You know, you got to check yourself first. If you don't check yourself or love yourself first, you can't love with nobody else. Because the little thing that sock on for eat you up, you're gonna like, oh no, I ain't doing it. You know, you can't. You got to compromise and have patience because everybody's growing. Especially if you're new to the marriage, it's a new progress. It's a new thing that you know it's different. Well, that's what couples doing now in this new century. They living together to try it out before they get married. That's not the same thing. Once you sign a paper, it totally changes. It totally changes. You know, I know a couple who married and they both stay in their home. They got to stay separate in their home.
And God loves all of us. He loves us equally, and He wants us to be happy. And you can't settle. You can't be happy and settle. It's just not. It's not going to work.
Can you give me an example of settle?
Like, for instance, there's a character flaw about somebody that you're dating, and you know that it's a character flaw, and you know that it can be problematic within the relationship, but you ignore it anyway. You move on and go with it, and that becomes a bigger problem than it needs to become because it wasn't addressed initially. So that's what I think of when
because you settle because of the physicality, the sexual part. A lot of women do that. Whatever can fit, or money. I'm just being real. You say keep it real. Right. You just keep it real. You know, sex is good, money is good. They're gonna settle. That's selling. You know, that's not what you need. You know it ain't right. You know, you know not right. And I'm not downplaying. I'm just you said keep it real. I'm gonna keep it 100. You know, some of the girls they married to dope boys. You know, they know what they're doing. They covering they up. You know, that's not.
You'll never be happy by settling.
You're not going to be happy with that. You know, now they worry about their lives, their children's lives, or their spouse's lives. They go there. You know that's one guy. If you was truly into God, what you prayed for, that's not what you want. I mean, what you needed, I should say. I'm sorry. You know, so that's selling.
And that's the key thing that you said is that if you are truly into God, or if you know God, because first of all, we have to understand that it's not our idea. Right. It's His idea. God, He is the one who designed marriage. We didn't do it, and He designed it for each and every one of us individually. So, but He provides for us. You know, the mate that He provides for us is the mate that He has. Is the mate that He gives us if we allow Him, you know, to, and if we don't try to go off on our own, because a lot of times we know that when we go off on our own, it doesn't quite work out. So that's where we have to really trust God and allow Him to provide us with the mate that He has for us.
Any more questions? Any more questions?
He asked, so is a woman just supposed to talk to a man any kind of way? I responded saying a woman should uplift and respect her man.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that was pretty
Does anyone want to comment on that, ladies?
You know, women disrespecting, cursing their man out, talking down to him, disrespecting him, you know, should women do that?
No, I don't think women should do that, especially when you're married, even if you're not married, because then if you do it in the marriage, it'll make the marriage even not as one and not stable.
And that's
Right,
not love. You know,
right.
like Scripture tells you, love is kind, love is patient. You know, it's tenderhearted. You can't tear a person, whether male or female. You can't tear a person down. It's not love. It's just not what love is based on. It's not what our God is based on. It's not.
Right. And that's how you kill someone's spirit. And that's how they shut down on you.
That's why you have to be equally yoked.
Absolutely. I know I keep saying last question, but is this one more question? Forgiving. Women, we have been hurt in the past and we have allowed some bad situation occur in our life. How did you forgive if you've been hurt previously before you got married to move forward into your marriage, into your relationship? Because what happened is you have a baggage, you bring that baggage into that relationship. And that husband did not even pack that baggage or purchase that baggage. But when he got with you, he had to help unload that baggage.
I cannot answer that personally because, you know, Marshall robbed me of all that when we started dating way back when. We've been together forever, so I'm not. I can't. But to answer that generically, I would think that the person that you can't go into a relationship carrying that baggage. It's like you've got this weight that you're carrying around, and you'll never get over. You've got to figure out a way to deal with that internally, personally, psychologically, before you even enter into a relationship. So that's a tough thing to do because women, not just women, men too. Because I know a guy. That's all he talks about is his past relationships, and he's scared of being hurt. It's hard for you to open up your hearts. I know oftentimes African Americans do not like to go into therapy. I am a strong believer in getting some therapy. Sometimes you have to search, just like you shop. You got to shop, find the right therapist. It can help you work through those issues that you had, so you don't bring that baggage. If you bring that baggage into a relationship, you can best assure that relationship's going to have some real serious difficulty, some real serious mountains to climb, and it may not be successful. So you gotta look internally. You can't blame nobody else. You let that person treat you that way. Get out of the situation. Find a way to heal yourself before you can even think about putting that issue on somebody else. That again is not love.
Since you are the counselors here, marriage counselors here at Mount Eden, if individuals need to come to you, can they really, how do they go by scheduling an appointment with you? Or if a woman wants to speak just directly with you, how does she get in contact with you and vice versa? And do you be honest? I'm sure you do, just knowing your personality. Are you honest with that woman and say, listen here, you've been hurt, you're not ready?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. They call the office, and then Mary, or whoever answers the phone, will contact us and give us their information. Marshall and I have actually told Pastor, when we've counseled a couple people, we will literally inform him what our thoughts were. We've actually not recommended several couples to not get married at this time. You can't control that, but that's our honesty. I mean, we come to the table raw. Well, you probably know that already about me. But we come to the table raw. We say, we tell you what we think, and we tell you about our struggles. So it's just not a one-sided thing. And that's how the marriage ministry works. When we have our sessions, we have a little, when we take trips, we literally have little workout sessions, little workshop sessions where we talk about different topics. So, and it's pretty open and pretty blunt, and a lot of tears can be shed at times. So, but I just believe in pure honesty and openness.
I do too. I'm a piggyback. Single. I know so many single men and women who haven't dealt with their issues, and so they can't move forward, and they missed on what God had sent them that they needed because they couldn't deal with themselves, and that's good because if they wasn't ready, then they might damage the marriage or the relationship, but they're so messed up that they can't really open up. They missing out on the blessing if they were able to get themselves right. And so many single men and women are that way, and that's why they single. They can't move forward. They just go into dating and relationships, physical relationships, and just keep going, and never heal themselves. And they damage goods, and they missed out on the blessing. And so you have to deal with yourself.
Amen. I want to say thank you. We appreciate y'all opening up, being real with everyone, sharing your personal experience and your wisdom. I mean, I really do. It helped me. I'm single, and it helped me. So I know what to look for. I'm kind of I already know what to look for anyway. They don't come my way. But I'd say thank you. I appreciate it. Hopefully we can do this again. I enjoyed you. And thank you. Mountain, thank you for joining us. And thank you again. We'll see you this Sunday and next Wednesday. God bless.